Hi, I'm Margaret and welcome to Margaret Lewin Quilting. Today we're going to be working on block number 22 of Moda Fabrics Stitch Pink 2020 Breast Cancer Awareness Quilt. Quite the mouthful, huh? But it's a really special event to have happen, and Moda has been fantastic about supporting breast cancer awareness over the last few years, and I am extremely proud to be part of this. Today we're going to work on this adorable basket, but I want to tell you, I'm going to be making mine a little bit different than how they made theirs. They made theirs using simple triangles. I'm going to be making half square triangles and using those to make mine. I have made half square triangles by cutting two triangles and sewing them back together again. But one of the reasons I tend to not make mine that way is because this fabric right here ends up being the bias, and I'd rather not deal with the bias because the bias very easily stretches. So what I've chosen to do instead is I'm going to make mine out of just simple blocks. So I have increased the size of my cut blocks to 3.5, and I have increased these blocks, the red and the pink, so all of these to also be that size. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fabrics and I'm going to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner. One of the nice things that I like about my Creative Grids rulers is they have a 45-degree angle. And you see me use that quite often when I'm squaring something up, but I also can use it when I'm trying to determine a diagonal line on a piece of fabric. How I do that is I take that 45-degree line and I line that right up with this side of my fabric, and you can see it makes it go directly on that 45-degree line. Doesn't matter that this piece of fabric is not square on the board. I'm finding it square by using my 45-degree line on my ruler. So that's it. I'm going to match these with my colored fabrics. I'm going to take them over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch away from this line on both sides. Then I'm going to come back and square up my block. So I will see you when I come back to square up my block. All right, it's time to start getting these blocks squared up. I'm going to walk you through just a couple of them, and then I'm going to do the rest of them off camera. You can see I grabbed one of the triangles. I'll wait actually until we get to the next one, which will be about right now. What I'm doing is I'm using my Creative Grids ruler and I'm following the 45-degree line, making my first two cuts, then I rotate it, and this is where I'm squaring it to be the 2.5 inches that it needs to be for the quilt block. Very simply just following that line and using the Creative Grids ruler. At this point, we've squared up so many half square triangles that I think you guys have got how to do it. So I'll do the rest of these off camera, and I'll see you when it's time to put it together. I am starting to put this together. We got everything all trimmed up. A couple things I want you to see here. The first thing being is how I'm putting this together. This is going together in rows through here. Then I have a row here, and I'm about ready to go and finish this row. I did cut these half square triangles, remember, a little bit bigger. When we get to that point, I'll show you why I cut them a little bit bigger and what we're going to do to get them back into size and fit within the pattern. So this is the point I'm at right now. I'm going to go back over to the sewing machine and I'm going to finish getting it together. These two go right here is where those two go, and the other two are over on my machine. So I'm going to go back over there. I'm going to finish getting these things put together, and then I will come back and we will continue through. So I'm going to sew this side. I need to take care of these and this, and then I need to start pressing. So I'll be back in just a few minutes. All right, I wanted to update you on what I've done. I did use Mary Ellen's Best Press on it, and I really heavily starched it. The other thing that I've done is I've put together all of my rows. I'm going to start by attaching these right here. I'll sew this, 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 and this. Then once I get these 4 sewn together, I will attach it to this. Once I got this whole piece together, then I'll come back and show you how I'm going to go about squaring it up. And I also wanted to show you that I did press all of my seams open. So everything's been pressed open, and I am ready to move on to the next step, which will be putting these 4 columns together with this piece. Then these will all attach to here. So I'll be back at that point. You're going to now see the reason why I made sure that I cut these triangles larger than what the pattern said to do it. I don't want to lose my points here. That's something that you're always looking at when you go to look at a quilt. Well, one of the best ways to ensure that I don't lose the point is to have extra fabric there, especially, so that I don't. So what I'm going to do is take a ruler. I'll line this up on my mat so that I know that I'm pretty straight. All right. Then I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to lay it down on top of this. What I'm going to do is take this 1/4 inch mark and use that as my guide to trimming this block off before I go adding my other piece of fabric. So that's all I'm looking at realistically is that 1/4. Another thing that I can line up is, see right here, I can use that mark to line up and make sure that I'm grabbing all of my points all the way down, and that will also help me. All right, so that is what I'm trying to see this mark right here, and I'm having to have to move the ruler a little bit to do that because of where it's placed. So at this point, what I'm going to do is just trim this off. I am aware that this is now the bias that I'm dealing with here. So I'm going to take my piece of fabric and I'm going to immediately pin it down right sides together. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to immediately pin it down right sides together, lining it up. Now remember, I did base this, and what I can do if I need to is I can take some of those basting stitches out. Right this minute I want to leave those basting stitches in so that I can make certain that I don't stretch it anymore. I want it to stay nice and flat, and I don't want it to stretch. And we're going to see if this basting stitches help or if it makes it worse. I flipped it over because I want to sew from this side so that I can see my points. So as I stitch across, my points are extremely obvious. All right, now don't forget, this end piece, this piece right here, is larger than what it should be because I cut it bigger. That was a purposeful thing that I did do. I'm going to pin at all of the points. All right. And then I'm going to take this right over to the sewing machine and get it sewn. I'm going to do that with both pieces. So off camera, I'll do the black one and get that one ready to go. But this is the start of what it looks like. Don't forget, I'm sewing from this side because I want to see where my needle's going so I don't lose my points. All right, so I'll be back once I've done that piece. This part of our block is going to square up to 8.5. I've already done this one, so we're going to do this one together. One of the things that I'm going to do on this one is I want to make sure that I've got my 8.5 and that I'm relatively square. So what I'm doing is I'm putting my ruler right here on the 8.5 because this I really can't change a lot. I need this part of the block to be just the way it is so that I've got enough room and it's squared up. That's important. And I am good pretty much to here. I have extra right here, but remember, I cut this one big, so I know I'm going to have extra. So what I'm doing is I'm putting my point there. I'm taking my ruler down to the point that I'm at 8.5 here, and I am following the corners, the points of my half square triangles all the way up. All right? I hope you can understand what I'm doing. I'm using this part of the block that I know is square and that I know is stabilized because there's no bias to dictate how I trim this side so that my block remains at the right size that it's supposed to be. So according to the directions, it's 8.5, so I'm 8.5 right here. And that's what I want to be because that's my corner. I start at 0 here and go to 8 and then 8.5. I start at 0 here, go to 8.5. So my block will be 8.5 inches square. So I'm going to trim this side in the top. And then we've got one more thing to take care of because remember, we know I made this block larger. So I'm just going to rotate it, and now I'm going to use my regular ruler the way I always use it. I've got my 8.5 here and here, and now I'm just going to square off this top part right there. Okay? So now I'm good to go. Alright? So back over to the sewing machine I go, and I will return. Once I got this piece and this piece squared up, it was really simple to put it together. It was just a matter of adding these pieces first. Once I got those pieces added, I added the shorter of the 2 strips, and then I added the longer strip. It was no big deal. It was very easy, and at that point went together fantastic. Here is the back side. You can see that once again I did press my seams open. And here is the melanoma one that I did. Let me move it so that you can see it a little bit better. This is a nice block. I've always loved this block. I think it's a really neat one. The only place that you really need to be careful is when you're attaching this piece, and that's mostly, well, that's only because what we're doing is dealing with the bias. And no matter what we did, we were either going to have bias through here or bias on one of these sides. So just be careful, make sure you don't stretch it. Putting a little bit of best press on it absolutely did help. So that is the conclusion of block number, I gotta think, what is this one? That is the conclusion of block number 22, which is called Something Special. So that means that I'll be back tomorrow with block number 23. If you like these videos, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to my channel. If you would like information on anything that I used in this video, everything's in the show notes below. So just click that arrow so that it opens up the show notes and you can see everything that I use to make these blocks. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again tomorrow for block number 23. Bye, everybody.